Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching again. Shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What up, world? The Tra4duce, baby, aka the Black Pope.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Sure, man. Again, I go by Tra4duce, aka the Black Pope. Been here up in the Rose City for multiple decades now, just putting in the work, trying to collaborate with enough people. But again, hip hop, rap star, you know what I mean? For the most part, just trying to bring about a little bit of change to the community and help showcase and promote what we got going here.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to talking about a little bit more of your music once we get into the middle of this. But let's go ahead and start right at the beginning. What got you into music initially?
Initially, man, I kind of grew up in extreme poverty, man, and I just remember Pac, singing to me and helping me escape out of the reality that I was in at that moment. Pac and Outkast, actually, were the two that were kind of just speaking to me, and I seen that the power it had on me to empower myself, to sometimes live in that fantasy world where you can kind of escape that torture that's kind of happened to you at that particular point. So that's how I got into it. I started rapping, writing raps at 11 years old.
Okay.
So shortly after I started really getting into what they were talking about, I started just thinking okay, how can I manipulate this myself and speak confidence into myself?
Yeah.
So started writing at about 11. Started recording on a microphone about 18.
Okay.
So with a group of folks and just trying to speak something different or contribute something different into the world as opposed to what we've already been hearing.
Oh yeah. And was anybody in your household musical growing up, or did you have any musical family members, or are you the first generation of music artist? I
would definitely say I'm the first generation, but I, around when I was about 14, 15, I did travel with the Baptist church.
Okay.
And, that's some soulful music from down south. You know? So we traveled all from Mississippi, Alabama, all the way up the whole belt to South Carolina. So,
damn.
But I didn't play any instruments, but I got to see a lot of beautiful artists.
Yeah.
I just helped them with set up equipment and stuff like that. But, got to see the pastor talking and how he kind of was his own MC in his own right, and starting off the songs, But so, long story short, nothing in my family, but grew up around some folks who were musically gifted.
Okay. So you still got to experience bigger and powerful music in its own right.
Oh yeah, definitely. In ways that again you'd see it shift people's psyche and spirit. Oh
man,
positive
church music, especially for the bigger church sounds, when people really put the effort into it and get really lively with it. It's something else. Regardless of your stance on religion, those experiences for music are just so powerful.
Oh yeah,
and I could dig that for sure.
And even with like the religious concept, I think that could be used kind of like as a tool or a weapon, depending on how you're using it. But in that type of regard, it was being used more so just to uplift people who were very poor,
Yeah. Well, that and just like I said, even like just the music within it, like, because I mean, church choirs are incredible. Like the amount of effort that goes into it, especially for being like in the realm of regular people. You know what I mean? A lot of the people that are in a church choir are just people who are like, I just want to do this.
Yep. And get that release and those endorphins.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Also, when I was younger, I would like go to youth groups, and definitely there were some of the most like competent musicians that I had ever, like the first time I ever saw somebody with a 5-string bass was at church.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's more than 4?
One of the crazy instruments that these guys had was a steel guitar, and I just was like, this is my first time ever seen it. I was like, what the hell? This thing can do so much. And
the sound is always incredible.
Crazy. So
Hell yeah. And then before we get into what you do in the present day, I've got a couple foundation questions I check in with everybody on. And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
The first album I ever bought with my own money was Stillmatic.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a great one. To me, it's my favorite Nas album. A lot of people love Illmatic, but I don't know. It was right when that Jay-Z Nas beef was going on, and I was like, let me buy this. And then I just remember still having the Walkman with the headphones in high school, and then I heard that, and I was just like shifted, and the way that he kind of blended that commercialism with political stuff that he was talking about.
Yeah.
It was just gorgeous, man. But that was the first one that I like took the dive in to purchase with my own money.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I dig that.
Before that, it was like, Outkast cassettes and stuff like that, but I wasn't buying those.
They were like, you were like, hey, can you get this for me? But I mean, it's still like, it sounds like you've just kind of invested in some good music from the start. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw it was happening, got tickets and went to it.
Well, I think it's funny. It's not the one that I got tickets for, but the very first one I ever attended was All For One.
Okay. Hell yeah.
And it was pretty cool seeing them do like the quartet type of acapella thing. But the first one that I ever bought tickets for was Atmosphere.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that was the first one that I got to go see. And
that was probably really special.
That blew me away, man. Yeah, absolutely blew me away. So
Atmosphere is somebody I never got to see live, and I'm really bummed about it now. But like that was probably really.
They were at the Roseland, bro. It was beautiful, man. Nice little compact, sweaty, and the slug go off like that. It was pretty crazy, man.
Oh yeah. And then before we get into you in the present day officially, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yeah. I would say that, I had some downfalls and situations happen to me, and I was already doing music, like recording music and doing shows. That was always special. But I reached a point where, a level of maturity where I was like, this stuff is supposed to be timeless. So I was about 25. This stuff's supposed to be timeless. What am I going to leave behind? Like, what do I want to talk about? Do I want to continue just to keep making music about just kind of like partying and stuff like that? So I just remember specifically some things happened, got assaulted by the cops, and kind of felt like a victim at the time and helpless. So at that point, I was like, again, I got to pull back into that Tupac type of situation and give people something that's going to be able to motivate them throughout these type of hard times. So I kind of like use it as a therapy session for myself, but then also just to come full circle, make sure that whatever I'm producing for myself, I can produce for other people. And the numbing party type of situation, there's a role for everyone in this circus act that we participate in, but it's not my role. And I knew that at that point. So I had to shift it up and just really like double down on what I was trying to get accomplished.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sorry that all happened to lead to the point, but just from what I've heard, it sounds like you made the best of it.
Yeah. I'm not happy that happened to me, but it made me a better man because it made me understand that no one's going to just pull you out of things like that. You're going to have to deal with that yourself individually, and you're gonna have that want and know how to do it too. So there's a start, and it's scary, but once you start really like trusting in yourself in that capacity, it strengthens you beyond imagination.
Hell yeah. Well, now let's go ahead and talk about what you're doing with it now. We're gonna get into what you do presently, but before we do, the first question I want to ask, it's super easy. How'd you pick the name?
The name. So I used to go by Tra4duce. Right? There was not a 4 in between it. And it was an acronym of some sort like that. But then I seen like some New York rapper had it, so I was like, okay, I gotta update the acronym. So what Tra4duce actually means, a lot of people don't even understand this. It's an acronym, and it means the raw UC, and then in between the T and the R and the A and the U and CE is 4D. So it's the raw you see in time. So it's like the God you see in time, or the God in time you'll see, is what it kind of stands for. You know? So yeah. So if you didn't know that, that's what it stands for. You know, a lot of people when they first hear, they're like, "That's dope. You should explain that to people." And just like, it's a little deep.
I was gonna say,
that's there, but I wish you could put like the little windows up on the thing and see the breakdown of how it's broken down. But yeah, it's the raw you see in time.
Damn, that's wild.
Yeah.
See, I thought the 4 was a P, so it'd be Tra4duce. And I was like, oh.
A lot of people think that.
Yeah, I could definitely see. But no, that's really cool. I appreciate thought in names. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. When people go with their own name, that's fine. Like, that's the obvious, you being you.
Yeah.
But like, I like it when people are like, oh, there's a layer to it. Like Twan does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. That's a really good example of like a name with like a layer of like thought in it.
Life's complicated, and I'm definitely in for helping to complicate it more. You know what I mean? Like, or be a reflection of what society is. So everything is like double entendres or again acronyms of some sort. Like,
well, it's not like your name is hard. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to remember. It's easy to spell. Like it's not one of those ones where you're like, oh, there's a silent G. It's cool when there is a name that's not hard to get or remember that also has like a layer of depth to it.
And so many times people will be like, oh, well, you from California, you gangbang. I'm just like, I have no affiliation with anything like that whatsoever. This is way more on just some spiritual, metaphysical type stuff, brother. You know, so, but yeah, I've been going with it for a while now. Again, like you said, it's easy for people to go ahead and like captivate and grab onto and say and remember. But there's also like a side moniker, which is the Black Pope. Which again that comes from one of the albums I was having, which again that just speaks to the militant spiritual warfare that's taking place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, even based off a lot of your lyrics, I can kind of see where that comes from for sure.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What's something you do to get a track started?
Well, to get the track started, I'm searching for an instrumental of some sort that's kind of reflecting the mood that I'm in or some of the life experiences that I've just been going through. For instance, if I'm having good times, I'm looking for something with a little bit more levity. If I'm stressed out and again trying to get kind of a therapeutic venting session out where there's a lot of like energy and aggression coming out, I'm looking for something a little bit more hostile, if you know. So again, I start with the beat, honestly, over like choosing a topic, you know. But I have been specializing in albums more so. So it all starts with an overall concept of what the project's going to be about in terms of the album. And then we go from there in terms of like, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, I got you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that's a solid experience. And for finding beats, do you go online? Do you have like people that you get them from? How do you go about curating those?
Yeah, typically I'll just find beats online for the most part. I do have a producer that we're kind of using exclusively right now. His name is Smoke. And he's local. But typically I go online, and what will end up happening is we'll never use those ones that we grab from online. We'll recreate them.
Okay.
You know, and just where they don't sound anything alike, they just kind of keep the same BPM.
Get that mood.
Yeah. So that's what I'm all about now. Typically I would just go to YouTube, purchase the lease or whatever the heck it is, or go to BeatStars, purchase the lease. But now we're at the point where we kind of want to have rights to everything and not have to be on these weird like, robbery type leases of what I feel like they're doing, where it's like you got to come back and renegotiate after 5,000, you know. 5,000 views. So now again, it's all about like ownership and making sure that we have total control over what we want to do, because some people may not agree with some of the things that we're going to do.
No, totally. You know? I get that. And then once you get a track finished writing, and I mean, do you freestyle? Do you do pen to paper? How do you go about like putting like the actual words into place?
Yeah, I definitely do pen to paper, but I mean, I don't know how other people explain their process, but it definitely, there's freestyle into it. Like if I'm writing by myself, which is what I kind of prefer to do most of the time, but not all the time, you're blessed with that opportunity. But it's kind of like I'm sitting there, you know, kind of like getting into like a Hasidic Jew type of mantra, if you know what I'm saying, where you're bobbing your head and trying to just freestyle a couple lines at first. But yeah, when it comes to writing, start off instantly just with that feeling, get that first line out. Then I always try to make one line flow into the other line. Yeah. As opposed to when some folks, they'll just say something like, my girl did this, blah blah blah. I'm robbing this dude, blah blah blah, and it still makes a cohesive song.
Yeah.
Mine are always trying to like run into the next line, almost like poetry in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then once you get a track finished writing, and it doesn't have to be like release per se, but once it's like all there and you're ready to start like practicing it, how long does it usually take you to get comfortable enough to be able to perform a track?
Yeah. So my music, I have multiple layers on it, you know, so I have to like try to pick and choose which part that I want to have on there and then which part I don't want to have on there for like a backing vocal. But I would say, you know, it depends on the track, you know, but I can probably memorize something within about a couple weeks or so to make sure that I'm confident in being able to perform it properly. But I've had horror stories, you know, where like there's a competition that happened and they're like, oh, you won, so you get to perform tomorrow. And I'm like, I didn't think I was going to win, first of all, and I didn't know there was a competition. Yeah. And then I just totally like mess it up because it's within 24 hours. So anything like that, I don't mess with anymore, you know. But yeah, I would say it takes me a couple weeks to memorize whatever I'm trying to get going, to say it the proper way that I want to say it, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I always think it's crazy when people are like, I could do it the same day. I'm like,
I'm not happy with that.
I can't.
Yeah.
I definitely can. I mean, respect to anybody who can. Like, I know some people that just, by the time they even get to the point where they're going to like start doing it, they've like rehearsed it in their head 1,000 times. Yeah. But like for me, I'm kind of in the same boat as you when I was doing music. It was always one of those, all right, now that we got it finished, I need to like mull over it for a time and like get comfortable running all the way through it and like being able to like present it and figure out where like I might pause live, what I might do different. Yep. Like
where am I like losing my breath at, you know?
Exactly.
Like that. But I mean, you give me a teleprompter, sure I can do it within 24 hours, you know, like I don't mind that. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, that's what I'm comfortable with this day and age. Yeah.
No, totally. And then let's go ahead and we're going to talk about some of your music now. Now, I went and checked out everything you've got on Spotify. It goes back to 2020. And you've got a lot of music. You've got a lot of music. I mean, you got 9 singles, but you also have 6 albums. And none of them are tiny albums. I mean, one of them is sitting at a whopping 27 tracks in an hour and 19 minutes. Like that, like hefty.
Yeah.
And I could talk about the thing that's the most recent out, but we're going to do something a little special in the second half. So I'm actually going to jump right to just kind of breaking down your sound. Because after checking it out, I mean, I dig it. It's tough, but it's melodic. Your flow is also like super articulate, which I really appreciate because like but it's not wordy. You know what I mean? Like you've got a good sound, you've got good presentation, even like how you said, how you like kind of flow all of your lines into each other. That's very prominent, but at the same time, you do still have, you know, you do still have vocal effects. You do still use the auto-tune. You do still have the layers, but it's not oversaturated in either direction. So it kind of meets in this really cool middle ground for presentation. And also, you have so many features. You've featured so many people. I mean, you have full albums with Silas One Wolf, is it Diarchy?
The Diarchy, yeah.
Diarchy, and King Laz, Mackie. But you also have individual tracks with like everybody. Like I couldn't even I mean, you know, shout out to Twan and Scooter Rogers because they've been on the show. Yeah. But like, you know, I mean, you got K-Wayne a bunch of times, you got James Fortune, and then just so many other people. You've really created a space for a lot of other individuals to exist within your music. And so I really appreciate that. But I do this bit where I pick out a personal track that I enjoyed.
Okay.
But before I do, I have to tell you, it's off of your unreleased album.
Okay.
I went and listened to it. First of all, thank you for sharing it. And we can't make this a whole tuned in experience, but I did pick one off of that.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're okay with me saying the names of things or not. So
I'm okay because hopefully by the time this airs, it'll be out. It should be out on the 8th.
Oh, perfect. I think this is the day after. So
yeah, it'll be good.
Maybe we'll put it out the same day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all good.
But this is the first time in Jambox history where I've ever picked out a track that is unreleased for my personal pick.
Beautiful.
But I had to do Farewell Babylon.
Yeah.
And I don't even usually go early tracks on an album, but I did listen to the whole album, and there was something about that track that just grabbed me. I mean, it checked all the boxes. The beat goes. There was just this emotion in the track that you brought the whole time. And I mean, like I'm a big fan of choir.
Yeah.
In any capacity when it comes to music. So like having that in there just added this whole element.
Yeah.
But I mean, even on a further point, I'm sorry I'm running long on this one. But
you're good.
Just to talk about the new album a little bit. I believe it's Exodus from Babylon 2.
Yep.
It's just, I think it's some of your best work Like, and not to say your other stuff wasn't good, but just there's a growth in this album that is just phenomenal. Like, I can really tell you have invested a lot of time. And I mean, it, again, in true you fashion, it's a lengthy one. It's 18 tracks, an hour and 4 minutes. And it's so good. The arrangement is solid. The beats are tight. Like, I don't even have one example I can use for it that I'm just like, this and this. But it also had something that I kept hearing in your other music. And I don't usually like to compare people to any at one thing, but there's this element of like early like Tech Nine and like strange music sound that just like pops up throughout all your music.
Okay.
But in Suit Up, I heard it perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, early Tech Nine, in my opinion, is some of the best. So it's not that you sounded like him, but there was just this solidity. There was this like not aggressiveness, but like confidence. There was this presentation and that just this decisive chop.
Yeah.
In a bunch of parts of it. And unfortunately, the features weren't tagged, so I can't say like who else was in it or not. But like, there was just a presentation in the whole album that I think is really good. And I'm super excited for it to come out so everybody else can experience it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But just it's a really good album. And like full listen is gonna have to happen for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those ones where it's like every single track brings something really special.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll take my hat off to you for giving me those compliments with that. And, sorry, I meant to get you the feature list on that.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
In the Suit Up track, it's King Tay and then Silence with me. So, but yeah, man, going back to the very first initial, so Pharaoh Babylon is one of my favorite tracks as well too. And I just felt like it epitomizes what the concept of what that whole project is. I wanted it to be the first album on there, because it's talking about what the project's talking about is taking this journey away from the norm. Away from the system and the structure that kind of keeps us in the mode of just like getting served other music, like we kind of talked about it off camera, but yeah, Pharaoh Babylon. So that's why there's so much aggression in that one as well, and you can kind of hear the pain in the voice because it's saying like I'm trying to prepare the listener for this journey that they're about to go on, and it's going to be filled with highs and lows throughout the project, and it's kind of just like when you leave home, it's kind of sad, but it's exciting. At the same time. And I was trying to captivate both of those kind of like ideologies into what and those emotions into what is about to take place in the whole project. But yeah, I love that one. And in terms of the beat, that's Sam with Burn Money Music, Yellow Trash Can Studio. He kind of produced, I would say, like 80% of the whole entire album. And it's that concept that we're talking about where you go through, reconstruct a beat that we found, but that sample was on the beat, the spiritual thing, the chorus there. But Suit Up, that one's produced by Smoke, and the original one that we recorded on that, it was a little bit more energy on it, but then he just brought this flute, and it reminded me of like some Pied Piper type stuff.
Yeah,
we're telling people to get ready, suit up. We're taking this journey. There's going to be foes along this journey that we're taking. There's going to be naysayers and doubters, and so it's kind of like the Pied Piper getting ready to gather up all the troops to go on this journey, And so there's some aggression, and again, I'm a little bit older. I got 2 newborns, so that's real stuff I'm speaking in there. Like when I look into my young boy's eyes, make my blood pressure rise.
Yeah.
So it's time to suit up. Spent the last of my loot on this pie. So not to get too much into the lyric part of it, but I also see that in the younger artists that are getting on the tracks. Like it makes me excited seeing the potential, especially all these features that you're talking about. These people are all local, all around here, and there's so much talent to not just pick from, but to showcase, and that's what I'm trying to do. And all those projects where you're talking about all those features, I'm always trying to just show these other people and give them their opportunity so they can shine as well, but show them my process, show them how I can help them build their own profile in a way. But yeah, and the overall theme of Exodus from Babylon 2, if you listen to the first one, you'll see that it's way more lyrical and we're chopping like people's heads off with the lyricism. This one's more matured to make sure that we give that listener a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
To where you still have these people who are extremely talented artists, and they'll still come and like give you like, oh, I need to listen to this 3 times in order to understand what these people are talking about. But there's those breaks in there where you're just like, oh, this is soothing. This is feeding my soul. It's more than just a head nodder. It's like, oh, I feel like not that I necessarily learned something, but I feel like I'm growing with the artist.
Yeah, no, I mean that the big takeaway I think for the new album for sure is definitely that it's a whole experience, but it's not one of those ones where like 7 tracks in you're like, I've heard this already.
Yeah.
I've heard this already. Like it has a good arrangement,
Yeah.
which I think goes a long way. And I'm sorry, I had the name of the other album, the long one.
It's the Apotheosis, the Black Pope.
Yes, there we go. Sorry, I don't know why it got deleted from here. But like that one is kind of a good example of like the journey for sure. Like there's a lot of rise and fall in that as well.
Yep.
But I think where it differed was just that like there was this small amount of presentation that hadn't landed quite yet. Like it's still very dialed, very put together, but there was something I was listening for that your new album has flawlessly. Like the thought, the effort, it feels so put together too. Like you said, you know, most of it was produced by one person or place. Like it feels all as one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it feels like a journey.
Yeah.
And it's really, it just as an album, it is really exciting. I'm super stoked for it to come out. So
hey, anyone that's on that, man, definitely get prepared, man, because I think we pieced everything together in a perfect package. Again, like we said, to showcase the talent, but just to put on for the city overall. You know, all those people I've met multiple times, came out to multiple shows to network with them, connect with them. And then there's people that, you know, we haven't been able to bless in that capacity, but I've talked to them about it, and I really want those people to listen to it because we got other things planned in the future where we have a perfect opportunity to take advantage of this journey that we're on, because it is about uplifting Portland.
Oh, very much
specifically, you know.
And I can't wait. Like, I'm not even going to ask who were like the features on all of them, but like I am super excited to like see who ended up being the other voices when it comes out, just so I can like, because I'm going to re-listen to it. Obviously, I've got at least like 20 plays I got to give you from the time I went through it onto actual Spotify, so you get them. Yeah, but like I'm excited to like actually like sit down and like look at who ended up being some of the like sounds that I recognized from your other music, but like didn't want to say for sure, and like some of the sounds that I'm like curious about because I don't know who they are, or at least like don't know by sound directly.
Yeah, I can drop some names. You want me to drop some names?
Well, I don't want to know because I want to be surprised.
I got you.
See it.
I got you.
Hopefully, like I said, by the time this comes out, everybody definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, put them in the shout out at the end so that I won't know for sure.
No problem.
But they'll all know.
Yeah.
But I am curious to know now, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Off the main album or just in general?
Just in general, yeah.
So I came out with this project called The Diarchy. It's with King Lass, who is no longer with us. I think you've heard that in other interviews before. But
he's definitely been mentioned before. Rest in peace. And I mean, just a powerful artist. Like every time I hear him, I know it's him for sure.
And he's on the new album multiple times too. But you know, a little bit of background just on his real quick, if you don't mind. You know, I knew him since he was 15 years old, but I never knew he rapped, right? And then he had some issues come up, and a friend reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, he's going through something. You should come over and hang out with him or whatever." And I went over there, and then he started showing me all this crazy music, absolutely insane music. And I was like, "What are you doing in this house, man? Get out of this house and go perform this stuff or drop some music." And he's like, "You really think it's that good?" You know, that type of like idea. And it instantly reminded me of myself. I was locked away in my house for way too long, just creating music after music or song after song after song. And it just reminded me, bro, no, I'm not going to let you sit here anymore. I'm going to get you out of here. So some of my favorite songs to perform are from that album. One is called TTFU, which means turn the fuck up. And the other one is called Steez. And those songs just hit so hard. And he wrote those hooks, you know. They just hit so hard, and they're so gorgeous, man. And there's we did this beautiful blend of he's more rugged and rough, and I'm more of like an intellectual, spiritual thing. Yeah. And so that's what it's called, King's Ascension, Fallen Angels. Is because, you know, as you're rising through this journey of becoming your own king in your own path, which is what this is kind of talking about too, if you ever want to get into that, you're also going to be battling these spiritual forces. And he definitely was battling those himself, and we all are to a certain capacity. But on those two tracks specifically, I am dropping some of those key gems, saying like it's a war going on, and you can hear this soldier right here going through it. You know, so those are two of my favorite ones to perform. Not even just because he passed, even while he was still around, we were performing them, and it just gets the crowd so energetic, and then I get to feed right into their soul with some of that beautiful message. Yeah, no, you two in particular have a great duality in sound. I think that like it's very
two sides of the coin, because he is, his sound is very much more aggressive, is very much more like cut, and I mean his hooks in particular are really good. Really good.
He's like he's one of those, we've talking about this concept off camera, we're talking about this concept of mastering your voice. And you could tell when artists have done that, when they had to put that time in their room and tried to just work with what they were given. He mastered it, and what he really mastered with the ad libs. And so on those hooks, he has these distinctive, totally original ad libs where he's like, all this stuff. And
he did that in that track with Bobby. Like that was the one, like the biggest thing that stood out, is that there is a whole other character in his ad libs than just what he's doing at the time. And there's already so much character in what he's doing at the time to where you just get this intense like fullness.
And that was his first time. That album is the first time he recorded live, or recorded in professional studio. I apologize. So it was even him working out kinks himself, because as we talked about before, you have to kind of learn your voice over if you go from like an amateur home studio setup to dealing with a professional place, because your voice kind of sounds a little different. So there's certain things that he even have that I still have, is like rough mixes that he had where the energy is through the roof, and then he gets in there and he's kind of a little bit shy. But as you can see through the album, because it's kind of like this song was recorded first versus this song was recorded last, you'll see him getting that maturity. And then even with like Petty Change was one of the newer stuff that he recorded, and then there's some songs on Exodus Babylon which are like the last things he recorded. You just see him just walking with his chest out, and it's beautiful story and beautiful show of maturation in a very 2 years or something, so
Well, thank you for going through that experience with us. But since we've already talked about so much of your new music, it'd be hard to move into the next portion where we have you tell us about it. And hopefully by the time this is out, everybody's already listened to it now. So now I want to take a second and step back. Let's look at kind of music as a whole. What are some of the things about either just newer music in general, or at least new music to you, that you enjoy and are finding inspiration from?
So I'm way more locked in on like the local scene these days. So,
which is arguably the newest of music.
Right. A lot of times the stuff that we're hearing from the big names, it's already been done for over a year or so. So people were putting inflections on their voices in a crazy way that add attitude to it on the grander scale thing. But in the local community, it's this drive. Right? It's this drive of pushing the limits, maybe hitting a high note where you're not supposed to, or maybe going ahead and whispering in the song where you're not supposed to. Something that continuously tickles your ear. And that's something that I've been trying to pick up on so much, and just layer after layer after layer, adding, because we grew up in an era where it's good just to lay one vocal. You know what I mean? A main vocal, maybe a dub, that's it. But I think the layers are going to make it to where we transcend the genre more, where you'll hear it a lot in my music, where there's like an auto-tune ad-lib singing in the back, and it's where it's almost like a duality happening while you're listening, like a group singing all at one time, even if it is just me, just on there. And that's what I wanted to feel like, where you're like, almost like you're hearing two people go at the same time and interweave this beautiful thing that forms a beautiful verse, But locally, again, I can reach to like people like Twan, Trippy Gang, that's like Nello and Egypt. These guys like at the top of their level, and they can compete with any of these artists that people look up to now, if you know what I mean. And they're doing it by all these complicated layers and structures, and again, unorthodox timing with how they're doing certain punch-ins. And I just think that that's motivating me to like keep pushing that boundary, keep learning, keep growing. So I find the inspiration in like kind of the youth right now in that capacity.
Hell yeah. No, and that's kind of a great example. I mean, Twan in particular is a solid example of like just there's an envelope to push always, and you can exist in a sound, but you can also exist so far outside of it at the same time, and like really bring kind of a charisma. There's the ability to recreate a sound, and then there's the ability to create an energy. And I think that the opportunity to do that is something that we as artists now have more capability to do than ever, but people don't see it quite that way. So like when there's somebody who like strikes it and they're like, this is the sound, like I mentioned him off camera, but Jordan Fletcher is one of those artists who like, he is just talented. Like he finds the ways to bring something different to each space, but also he pushes his own boundaries in like the ability. And same with like Damie. Damie is, shout out Damie. He kind of finds a way to bring something different to every track he's on.
Yeah.
Like anytime there's an opportunity, and it's him, kind of like Laz, like it's him.
Instantly.
Like, obviously. The second you hear the voice, you're like, I know who it is.
Yep.
But there's always something a little bit different dependent upon the track. Yeah, and I think that, you touched on it really well. Like music nowadays kind of has an opportunity to be a little more freeform as long as they're not fully established artists. So that I think is a huge part.
Yeah.
And then before we get into this next portion, which is all hypothetical questions, I have one last one to go for this middle part, and it's probably the densest part of the interview. But, we've talked a lot about your experiences with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Being a little bit older now, like I got to learn many years ago that when you do a project, you can go back and listen to that project a year later and see you speaking something into fruition, and you can see that these words are extremely powerful. So to be careful with how you're crafting them, and don't speak too much negativity into your own mind. Because to be honest with you, especially when you're at the level that we're at, which is not a national level, and even the people that are up there actually now think about it, because you're going to be singing those songs over and over again, you are like hypnotizing yourself in a way to either see success, see negativity, see drama. And so what it does for me, it helps me, they always say like the hindsight quote, it helps me look in hindsight and be like, man, it's funny. I was talking all that stuff and look what happened to me. So just, it helps me, reach my dreams, if you know what I mean. Cause I know what I'm saying now. And what I'm saying is just trying to help people as opposed to trying to hurt people. And so learning from it in that capacity of it being a tool or a weapon, depending on how you want to use it, kind of like the religious concept we were talking about it. It just gives back to me so much more, because I know that if I put in good energy and good intentions into what I'm doing, it's only going to reward me some way that I can't predict or know how.
Yeah.
But so I use it for that capacity. I give myself and give my all to what I'm crafting. I know that I'm going to get something back out of it, and help out other people. And I don't know. That's what I find most rewarding is that concept of it's helping me. It helps me to help others.
Yeah, no, I love that. And actually, I've said this in a couple episodes recently. It's something I've like really been kind of mulling over. Like, it's interesting to have realized that music is kind of a time capsule for yourself. Like, you can go back and listen to any track that you want, and you're going to remember making it. You're going to remember like the mindset you were in. You're going to remember the space that you were in. You're going to remember like the microphones you use. Like, there's something about like going back and listening to music that just, it always is going to bring that back. It like timestamps your life in that moment. But like, and there's something you said that I think really adds to that is the concept of what you are speaking becomes your future, because you can only listen to it later. Like, and for some people that like don't listen to their music all the time, they always end up revisiting it. Like, I still go listen to old Smooth Talk tracks, you know what I mean? Like, so really plant the foresight to be able to plant seeds for yourself for later. And also be like something that you want people like gain from and grow from and experience like that. That's I think the best line for like caring about you for yourself in the music and for the listening experience, because everybody's split on the do you write music for others, do you write music for you, and it sounds like you've kind of found that middle ground, and that's really interesting.
Because I'm a firm believer that you cannot help others until you help yourself first. You cannot love others until you love yourself first. So that took forever to find out, though, and I feel like a lot of youth, they're angry at the world, you know what I mean? Angry with the predicament and what they're in, and they should be. Yeah. Right. But you should use that fuel to go ahead and better yourself. And I think that's the way to do it, is by just reflecting your story and, sometimes people have the same concept that I'm talking about, which is like, oh, speak it into existence, but they're talking about like money and stuff like that.
Well, they'll
that's
find out they're manifesting.
Yeah, and then they'll find out that that's not actually what they were really wanting, was just more money.
Yeah.
They wanted happiness, and to find that is through, I don't know, family, community, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Again, I want to take people on this journey on Exodus from Babylon, saying we're all in this together. And the only way we're going to succeed is if we trust one another, defend one another, support one another.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if someone just blows up by themselves, you see that. And that's when people start automatically just kind of like trashing that person. Look at that guy. He's up there and we're down here.
Yeah.
I want to bring everyone up with us and just raise the community up one step at a time. How can I do that? I can do that through my music. That's my best capable way. I know how to put these songs together, arrange them together as like an executive producer, or I can showcase these people's talents. Let's do it that way. And so it gets to a point where it's like really fun for me now because yeah, I'm gonna make sure I put myself in there. I'm not just like DJ Khaled and just saying we the best or something, but I'm gonna put my contribution in there on like the overall creative process on it. And then I'm going to make sure that you fit in the story with me, because you do, because I met you, because I vibe with you. We connected on a personal level. So why not me try to help you out, and then you're helping me out in the same capacity.
Exactly. Well, the old saying, a rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah. There you go. And I'm trying to bring up a flood.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to this next portion, which is all hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Yeah, it's like out of two people right now, man.
We'll give you two.
Okay. Mike Capes and Dante the Apple.
Okay, hell yeah.
Those are two dudes.
That was going to be the answer to the next question, is who are the local people you want to work with?
Well, again, I don't want to say I kind of only want to work with local people, but that's what I'm invested in, so, but, and again, I see their talent up there with all these other guys too. So those are the guys I'm most interested in for two different reasons. One guy, they're both super intellectual, the way that they compose their music, but Mike Capes gets me amped up and makes me want to like go ride with them, and then Dante the Apple kind of like helps me and soothes my soul, when I'm listening to it. So both of those two guys are up there, and I think I have something in the works for maybe one of them, but we'll see how it goes. But those guys right now just are on top of their game, and they know what they want to say, and they're confident. Like, I remember some people were asking me about Mike Capes, and I was like, to me, the first word that comes to mind is polished. He's just so polished. He sounds so clear. He knows what he's talking about. He exudes that confidence of saying what he's going to say. And that right there, I feel like I can learn something from him, right? Yeah. So not only is it that I just want to just be on the track with him, I want to learn how he did it so I can incorporate it myself. And the same with Dante the Apple. He kind of can let the beat breathe properly, where sometimes I feel like I'm stuffing too much into the song, and I want to understand just more and grow more. And so I would want to work with those guys because they have something that maybe I don't offer. Gotcha.
Hell yeah. No, I love that. And they are two super talented dudes for this area. And everybody, you know what? Usually this is where I would say it in the next part, but at them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen. And then, like I said, usually this is where I would ask who are some local people that you're aware of. Yeah. You do work with so many people, and I think that kind of covers this part of it anyway. So let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
And for this is, if you could perform anywhere in the world, you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power. And it's guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. And it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
I don't know, man. Probably on like the top of Chichen Itza or something.
Okay.
I got to visit there one time, and that's all I can envision is like, standing up there, maybe walking down the steps, but it echoes and it like reverberates the sound, when you're down on the ground, like you can hit something, it will reverberate and come back to you. So I don't know. It sounds like it'd be pretty, spiritual. And that's what all my stuff is. Just how can I grow as an individual, maybe retracing some of my ancestors' steps or, you know what I mean? Like, and helping other people see it. Cause that's like monumental. People say like the Pyramid of Giza. I don't think they realize how tall the Pyramid of Giza is. They don't, people might be able to hear you, but they ain't gonna be able to see you that well. But
I mean, that's what speakers are for. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Chichen Itza is like, it's not that high up. It's probably a floor up. 2 floors up. But yeah, I think I'd rock with something like that.
Hell yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put an album yesterday.
Yeah.
Who would you want an album from?
I think I think I'd want, if I can get one more album from someone, it'd be Big Graham, actually.
Okay.
So I think if you listen to his most recent work, Vocation, like you've seen him coming into his own, and he was already like there, but you've seen it, and just we were going to start working on a project, me and him, and then he passed, unfortunately. But I just think whatever he was going to do next was going to be like what you talked about, like, oh, now you felt like you polished it perfectly, like with the Exodus from Babylon. He was on that journey already, and I think that next one would have just been, Vocation was already special, but that next one would have been absolutely beautiful, man. And he's one of those artists, again, I think that transcends certain sounds and talent level and personality, energy, everything, that whatever he was going to do next, it would have given him wings to fly, you know?
Oh, yeah. All right. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, I mean, I know, obviously, new album just dropped, but what can we look forward to between now and, let's say, February?
Okay. So I'm going to talk about two things. Okay. So one, the Exodus from Babylon album is not going to be on streaming platforms. It's going to be on the website that we're launching.
Okay.
It's going to be launched on the 6th. The album will drop on the 8th. It's going to be, so think of Exodus from Babylon 2. It's going to be EFB and then 2eyes.com. You can purchase the album there. It's going to drop with a music video.
Okay.
A mockumentary. Hopefully it's going to be about 10-minute mockumentary. So it's going to be kind of a funny thing about the process of how we came about. But then also something that we're calling the synopsis, which is a breakdown of every single track.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be like a really interactive site that you can go into and just learn more about the process, what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to show you all the pictures of all the features and everyone that's on there.
I won't have to ask you to come back for a tuned in episode then.
No, do whatever you got to do. But so it's going to be a really all-encompassing project that we put a lot into, and we hope that they go on the website, purchase the album, but even if you don't purchase it, you can still experience everything else that we've got there for them. But the thing, there's three things. So the thing I'm going to be working on next is producing King Laz's album, executive producing King Laz's album. So we're going to put that together. We hope it's going to be about 6, 7, maybe 8 tracks. That's not hard because he put in so much work that he basically has everything done.
Yeah.
Basically what we're going to do with that is kind of like hopefully remix the beats to make sure he has all the rights to it, because I'm not sure exactly what he bought and what he didn't buy, or what he leased and what he didn't. So we just want to make sure he has all that. But the thing I'll be working on as an artist is we have like a 7-headed monster collaboration project happening with me, King Tay, Silas One Wolf, Attic.
Okay.
Nello, Egypt, and Twan.
Damn.
And it's called Nightmare. And we hope to drop it on Halloween. 10 tracks. It's going to be like a Freddy the Cougar themed album. And yeah, it's just it's going to be a whirlwind of talent. And
I can't even. That's wild. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, all the track listing features are already all worked out. We're just in the process of recording everything, man. And it's going to be, I don't know. The point is about always trying to better yourself and push things to the limit. So when I look around the city, those are some of the most talented individuals that I've come across. So showcase it. How can we put it together in a beautiful package with a beautiful bow, present it to people, and do these things, create these projects that compete anywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, well, definitely excited for that one.
Yeah.
For this next one, go ahead and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me Instagram official_Tra4duce. Same for my Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff, TikTok. Again, the website where you're going to be able to access all the new stuff, it's going to be efbii.com. It reminds me of like FBI. But yeah, efbii.com. And yeah, man, DM me if you guys ever want to work or collaborate. That's what I'm all about. Let me help you guys and help me in the process, you know?
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else who want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, shout out to everyone that's on the album. Shout out to Burn Money Music. Shout out to Self-Made, King Tay, Silas. They put in so much work and helped me with this. Again, shout out Big Graham, King Laz, Fortress, some of the titans that we've lost recently in this hip hop community. And I don't know, anyone that just shows some love, showed up to a show like, I don't know, like Rodney the Alien or Daddy Magic. I appreciate you guys, coming out and support. And you, thank you very much, brother, because I respect a lot what you're doing and letting a lot of people get their voices heard, who some people have never seen. So it's a perfect platform, and you're so in depth with how you interview, and I can't thank you enough for like letting people understand the human behind what they might see as a caricature. You know,
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And with that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm gonna steal the camera for just a second.
All right.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know.
Yeah.
But it's one you think everybody should know.
I think Silas One Wolf came out with an album called Flesh and Spirit. He dropped it after we did Exodus from Babylon, the first one. And I think it went over a lot of people's head, but he does this beautiful rendition of like battling your own thoughts between flesh and spirit. And he's doing this thing where he's like attacking himself, you know, the way his body may be wanting something versus what's good for his soul. And I just think it went over everyone's head. So Flesh and Spirit, Silas One Wolf, I think it's like 6-7 tracks, nothing crazy, but it's really heavy stuff. And it will move you in the proper way, you know, and make you want to do better as an individual.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah,
For the rec.
yeah, for real.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you, brother.
Oh yeah.
Anytime.
Oh yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
Tra4duce, the Black Pope.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.